I would like to address this committee from a very personal perspective, and I do respect the fact that this bill has been worked on very diligently and that the persons who have presented it have done a stellar job. But I simply want to say that probably some 50 years ago, I accompanied my mother and her father to a voting place that we were basically not allowed or were not considered to be allowed to go to. And as I recall as a young child, my mother, we had discussions at home on Saturday mornings about public affairs, and I realized then that politics had a great deal to do with many of the things that affected our lives. And the debates were so heated from time to time because my mother was of one party affiliation and my grandfather, who was her dad, was of another party affiliation. He was born in 1889, of course, and had never been able to vote. So what had happened, she had been tutoring him on sections of the United States Constitution because he was not literate. He did not have an opportunity to go to school, but he did, in fact, educate his children. So my mother drilled, and she had remembered, she had committed to memory the Constitution. But to make a very long story short, we went any number of times back to that same place in Forsyth County where we were not allowed to go. And each time dressed in the finest clothes and tried to register so that we could vote. Because, as I said, my granddad was an Abraham Lincoln Republican, and he never changed that. But my mother was what they called a yellow dog Democrat. And so that picture is so vivid in my mind because I don't remember exactly how many trips we made. This was in the early 1950s, I believe, until he was able to recite and say everything that was in that preamble, as well as several of the articles of the United States Constitution. My mother was a very brilliant woman, so she probably knew it all. But the reality of that memory still resonates with me. And as I see the work that's, and actually, at age 18, I had to register to vote, and I think I voted almost every time since then, even when I think one time I was out of the country and I did so. So the time that we're spending and what we're doing here for something that I consider to be so much a privilege and a right, that really does seem to say to everybody that, you know, we're going to really wring your wrists and do everything we can to really, really make you want to do this thing called voting. It just bogs my mind, and it makes it very difficult for me to understand even why we are doing this, even though I recognize that many of you say that there is so much fraud. We're saying to the American people that we don't trust what's been happening, and of course to the people of North Carolina, we don't trust what's happening, and we're going to fix this thing and make you stand in lines and do all these things that are so unnecessary. And every time I think about that, I think about the pride that my folks had simply when they were able to, after about 20 trials, go to a place and finally be able to cast a vote. And even then, my granddad had to make an X when he did it because, of course, he was not literate. And I simply have the picture of those times in my mind. And therefore, there is just nothing, even in spite of all the work and all of the due diligence that can happen, that will make me support something that lends itself to making it so difficult for an American citizen to go and cast a vote simply because they are a citizen of the state of North Carolina. Thank you very much.